the business is his. You have two sons who could easily run the business, couldn't they? My son, JR, is in college, trying to prove himself and find himself. But my other boy has promised to prove himself on the ranch. He's a Coast Guard reserve. So if I was to put him in charge of a company, that would be a conflict of interest. Send it to my father-in-law who raised my eldest to be a gentleman. My other boy was raised to be a man's man. 6 a.m. Central. JR is having breakfast with Stoney Rosen, Brent Clark, and C.B. Coleman after swimming with them at the Sibley, along with Charlie Nation. He wants Karen so bad. Let him go after her, Stoney said. I know, huh? Yeah, he acts so nice around the college ministries to impress the girls. But I tell you, he is bitter as vinegar, Celie said. Man, don't believe in dignity, Brent said. The brand name my mom is my mom's maiden name. Means steeped in high tradition. Tradition, which means dignity, is part of a code. Who needs him anyway? I'm going out tonight to Cheesecake Toastmasters with Jennifer Bowers. Major party over at the School of Mass Communications, JR said. You go, CB said. Unlike Charlie, you're a gentleman. Gibbers. Meanwhile, Kyle and Festus are on their way to buy some rams and sell chickens in Rankin. On the car radio, they're playing Jeremy by Pearl Jam, 8 a.m. Central. In government class, Randy Wild gets to the front to the podium. All right, settle down, class. Settle down, cadets. We have a lot to cover, and time is short. He opened up his computer with presentation software and hooks it up to the screen. There are two types of people in politics, the quick and the dead. So rather than sitting here all semester debating useless theories, I'm going to teach you how to apply them. We will discuss is political psychology, personality, take a brief look at public opinion and congressional terms. Then we'll look at the federal case law and principles. Look over the syllabus. If there's things I'd like to do for you, let me know. 9 a.m. Eastern. Back in Georgetown, Jim and Betsy have Jim's favorite French toast for breakfast with orange juice and bacon. Betsy had learned from Jim's mother that he liked his bacon crisp tender, so she instructed the new chef, Kathleen, on how to fix it. 9 a.m. Central. Elizabeth arrives at the Oncology Center, courtesy of Mary Jo. She is weighed and then lies back in a chair when the nurse puts an IV in her arm and draws blood before starting chemotherapy. 9:30 p.m. and a.m. Central. Now we return. 9:30 a.m. Central. In petroleum geology class, Dr. Ken Rogers gives the introduction. Welcome to petroleum geology. I am Dr. Rogers. You know, a lot of people think of geology as just rocks. But, to me, I consider geology sacred. Like people hold their marriage sacred. Like people hold the Bible sacred. Geology is sacred. It's in the ground. The minerals you know. What I mean, minerals, you know what I mean? So if someone could please tell me the difference between source rocks and porous permeable rocks. A female student stands up and reads the textbook. A source rock is a hard foundation from which the oil can be capped into, but porous permeable rocks is where the oil actually is. Right answer, according to the textbook. Wrong answer, according to experience. You see, from 1980 to 1984, I worked for Hendrick Oil outlet in Houston, Texas. Only to be laid off because I said the source rocks could produce just as much oil as the permeable rock ones. Hold it, Carol said. At the time, I was taking an earth science course. And after school, my daddy would take me to the oil fields to look up the rocks before he started drilling. Really? Daddy's boy going to stand in front of the class and say why they didn't study traps and seals? I'll tell you why. Because prep school doesn't teach you to prepare you to be an old man. There was a long pause as Dr. Rogers dropped his chalk. Fantastic. I like the way you think. 2 p.m. Eastern. After a rough day of making phone calls and touring around Capitol Hill, seeking support from senators from Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Idaho, Florida, and Connecticut, Senator Feinstein agreed to support his confirmation as a senator from California, but Barbara Boxer refused. Jim and Betsy stepped down into the wet sauna in the basement and closed the door. Jim has smooth Elvis music piped into the sauna. He lays back at his wife's as his wife puts her arms around him. Tomorrow his Senate confirmation hearings began at 9 a.m. in the Kennedy Caucus Room of the Russell Senate Office Building. Tonight, he and Betsy would join Mrs. Blake Carter to watch Rain Man. She was in D.C. To gather research for her husband before flying back to Dallas on Thursday. 2 p.m. Central. Jerry is working at the beginning of his 4th straight semester at the Center for Public Affairs. Originally, he was advisor for disabled students services, but now he's being called. N.D. Pilsner had appointed him as disability student advocate. There at the center, he would be interviewing students with case issues, researching case law, and writing fact sheets. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, Elizabeth is resting in her bedroom. Kyle had returned from Rankin, only moderately successful. He goes into the house and orders a 5th of cognac. 3 p.m. Meanwhile, downstairs, Jim is making phone calls and talking to Paul Greavy and family attorney Rick Augustine, who helped him prepare for tomorrow's grueling session, Senate. 3 p.m. Central. At the Center for Public Affairs, Dr. Randy Wild discusses his vision for the Center for Spring 1994 for constitutional victory for disabled students and students' rights for academic freedom. After the meeting, Jared goes to the center computer in his large cubicle and taps into the Reese School BBS to look at the Reese Register, the newspaper for the old prep school that he went to. In there he finds